Okay, we're going to invite our next guest on, Dr. Robert Cucin. He's the CEO of Biosculpture Technologies LLC. He's a surgeon, a lawyer, and received his MBA, all of these from very prestigious schools. He has a teaching appointment at Cornell Medical School. He's a diplomat of the American Board of Plastic Surgeons, Surgery, and Medical Legal Medicine. Doctor, your resume is incredible. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, now that you have announced to the world that I have attention deficit defect. I've always liked school, and I like to learn. I've been kind of narrow but deep around my surgical specialty and my company, and anything that can help me as a tool to develop it, I've made sure I have.
Well, I want to drill down in a minute about kind of what you're doing in that biosculpting technology, and you have some patents and inventions, and it's really, really exciting. I want to find out, though, kind of about the man, not the attention deficit disorder problem. No, I'm kidding. It's obviously you are very successful and have a great career. And why did you go and get your MBA first, or did you get your law degree first?
Well, I'll give you the whole story in a capsule. Basically, I was supposed to be one of these engineering whiz kids who was going to go to MIT early, but I took a teeny bopper tour of Europe, and the only kid who could beat me in chess had a deformed face. So I fell in love with wanting to do craniofacial surgery, and that kind of redirected my life. And now I'm kind of just going back to some of the engineering talents and acumen that I basically had, a long time ago to use. As a surgeon, I took the full route as general surgery to plastic surgery, but in plastic surgery, when I got out in practice, I started doing a lot of liposuction. It was a very popular procedure, and I started doing large volumes of liposuction, and it was a lot of work. So I basically came up with an easier way to do it, and that was the first device and patent I licensed out. Not my first patent, but the first one I licensed out. And it wound up being acquired by Mentor, which later was acquired by Ethicon. And it created a $500 million a year market, the power-assisted liposuction market. I founded Biosculpture Technology because I had a next generation of the technology that was was gentler by design, rather than shoving a rod underneath the skin the way people have seen liposuction done, which is really pretty barbaric.
Now, when you talk about that, give me an idea, percentages of plastic surgeons that still use the big vacuum cleaner tube for an easier,
as you know,
lipo
was the first or second most popular procedure in the world since it was introduced. In terms of now we have some transcutaneous devices, which are nice, and the smaller volumes.
Sure.
And we still have, and we've got lasers, and we've got ultrasound, which about a quarter of the people use. I would say at least half of the people are still using, manual devices for liposuction. And they may use some single cannula vibrating devices that make it a little bit easier, or either the laser or the ultrasound, which make the tips hot so the fat gets dissolved. But the surgeon is still moving it back and forth with his hand, perhaps a little bit more slowly and with a little bit less resistance because the fat is dissolved with heat or
Doc,
even...
I want you to hold that thought. We're gonna get more into that right on the other side of this break. If you'll just give me a couple minutes, and so this is a very important subject because it's leading up to your, some of the big breakthroughs you've made. So we'll be right back with CEO Money in just 2. Okay, welcome back to CEO Money. I'm here with Dr. Robert Cucin. He's not only a surgeon, but a lawyer, and he got his MBA. So we're going to talk a little more about that as well in a few minutes because I'm fascinated to hear what you're doing with those 2 degrees. But you were telling me about the liposuction and the different types of tips that they're using today. And
Sure.
And then I want to know how they are different from what you're doing.
What we started doing in 2001 was to take the tube that was aspirating the fat take that hole, align it with a slot, and put it inside another tube, so it was in sheath. That way, every time the tube advanced forward, it didn't advance into the tissue. And that was the technology which established biosculpture.
So what does that do?
Well, it's a tube within a tube,
No,
or
how does that affect the end result? Is it less bruising, or what makes it
less
better?
bruising, less bleeding, because it's literally the patient is saved 10,000 blows an hour. Every time that inner tube advances, it doesn't jut into the patient, causing bruising and bleeding, and the surgeon doesn't have to move it manually. So she saves labor, and the patient is less bruised, and the doctor has more control, because the doctor just puts the slot which is the exposed portion of the hole as it reciprocates back and forth, and that can remove any tissue without the doctor having to stroke the instrument, just literally putting it wherever he or she wants it. And the tube doesn't even have to be straight. It can be curved, because the inner tube can be plastic or memory metal like nitinol. And so that's a very nice way of doing a more gentle liposuction. And take it to today, which is the exciting thing, is that technology is perfect to be used endoscopically or laparoscopically. You certainly could not take a rod and stroke it back and forth inside somebody's stomach. And the last thing in the world you would want to do is put a hot poker, like an ultrasound or a laser probe, which gets hot. I mean, you could really kill somebody. So what's perfect is this kind of technology, which we've made even more perfect for using it endoscopically or laparoscopically with the smaller tubes and more holes, because when you do a laparoscopy, you actually separate things with a little bit of pressure. So you have some pressure inside the abdomen, actually pushing the fat into the aspirating cannula. So the bottom line on it is what we can do today. There is no other technology to do conveniently. We can remove the fat that's in the mesentery, which secretes the resistant, which causes type 2 diabetes. So we have a procedure that we believe will be an outpatient procedure of the scope of lap-band. Remove 3 to 4 liters, 6 to 9 pounds of fat.
Wow.
Visceral or belly fat, the fat that's bad that Dr. Oz talks about, that's killing you because it causes type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea, gastric reflux, hypertension, autoimmune diseases, and cancers. So remove that fat, it does not grow back.
Now, this is a special tool you're using besides just the sleeve? Is that correct?
Yes, this is using the tube within a tube technology. We've got method and device patents on it, and this allows us to actually have an instrument that's made as a pistol to be used laparoscopically to remove the fat inside the mesentery. So something that could never really be done without having to just cut it out and do a big small bowel resection before.
Well, I was going to say, is anybody else doing this?
Nope. The only visceral or belly fat that's been taken out to date has been taking out the omentum. If you cut out the omentum, and it's got to be cut out, even if you do it laparoscopically, and you have to stop the bleeding, and you have to get close to the stomach, and you have to take almost all of it out, and you have to make an incision near the navel to take it out in the bag, even if you do it laparoscopically. If you do that with a lap band, the patient does better than with a lap band alone.
Right.
If you do it with a bypass, the patient does better than with a bypass alone. But that's not if it's a really aggressive bypass. If it's a really aggressive bypass, all of the food winds up, undigested anyway, and you can't max the result. But up until now, nobody could take out this mesenteric fat that's much more metabolically active than the omentum. And here we don't have to cut it out. We can remove it with a technology akin to what's done in liposuction, but without the necessity of stroking it back and forth. And that's what's unique. That's what's patented. That's what we believe will be much safer, cost-effective, and highly effective.
Well, it's a game changer if you can solve the diabetes issue and the severe obesity issue in the U.S. today. But so if you put them through this process, and I only have about 60 seconds, so we're going to go real fast. Put them through this process. Do they still have to do regular liposuction?
No, they should lose. They should also lose the subcutaneous fat after they get off the table.
I mean, that's amazing.
So what they might need is, to have their skin tucked up a little bit if they really have a massive weight loss. You don't want
Yes.
them winding up looking like a Shar-Pei dog.
Listen, Doc, this has been amazing and informative, and I want to have you back on so we can take it a little bit further. I really appreciate you being on the show today. You've been a terrific guest.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate it, and we're going to have you back on.